Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24. Text number 37. So,
yeah.
Let's go to the verse. येषः आत्मा पतः व्यक्तः येष आत्मपतो व्यक्तो येष आत्मपतो व्यक्तो नष्टः कालेन भूयसा नष्टः कालेन भूयसा नष्टः कालेन भूयसा प्रवर्तयितो देहं प्रवर्तयितुं इमां विद्धि मया वृताम् इमं विद्धि मया वृताम् येष आत्मपतो व्यक्तो नष्टः कालेन भूयसा प्रवर्तयितुं नष्टः कालेन भूयसा तं प्रवर्तयितुं देहम् इमं विद्धि मया भृताम् Yeshah, this Atmapatah, path of self-realization, Avyaktaha, difficult to be known, Nashtaha, lost, Kalena Bhuyasa, in the course of time, Tam, this, Pravartayitam, to introduce again, Deham, body, Imam, this, Viddhi, please know, Maya, by me, Vritam, assumed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This path of self-realization, which is difficult to understand, has now been lost in the course of time. Please know that I have assumed this body of Kapila to introduce and explain this philosophy to human society again. Kindly repeat. This path of self-realization, which is difficult to understand, has now been lost in the course of time. Please know that I have assumed this body of Kapila to introduce and explain this philosophy to human society again. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is not true that Sankhya philosophy is a new system of philosophy introduced by Kapila, as material philosophers introduce new kinds of mental speculative thought to supersede that of another philosopher. On the material platform, everyone, especially the mental speculator, tries to be more prominent than others. The field of activity of the speculators is the mind. There is no limit to the different ways in which one can agitate the mind. The mind can be unlimitedly agitated, and thus one can put forward an unlimited number of theories. Sankhya philosophy is not like that. It is not mental speculation. It is factual, but at the time of Kapila, it was lost. In due course of time, a particular type of knowledge may be lost or may be covered for the time being. That is the nature of this material world. A similar statement was made by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Sakaleneha mahata yogo nashtaha. In course of time, the yoga system, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, was lost. It was coming in parampara, in disciplic succession, but due to the passage of time, it was lost. The time factor is so pressing that in the course of time, everything within this material world is spoiled or lost. The yoga system of Bhagavad Gita was lost before the meeting of Krishna and Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna again enunciated the same ancient yoga system to Arjuna, who could actually understand Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Kapila also said that the system of Sankhya philosophy was not exactly being introduced by him. It was already current, but in course of time, it was mysteriously lost, and therefore he appeared to reintroduce it. That is the purpose of the incarnation of Godhead. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Dharma means the real occupation of the living entity. When there is a discrepancy in the eternal occupation of the living entity, the Lord comes and introduces the real occupation of life. Any so-called religious system that is not in the line of devotional service is called adharma sanstapana. When people forget their eternal relationship with God and engage in something other than devotional service, their engagement is called irreligion. How one can get out of the miserable condition of material life is stated in Sankhya philosophy, and the Lord himself is explaining this sublime system. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha namavom vishnupadaya krishna presthaya bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. In India, when students go to college, when they finish their +2, they have to decide on which professional course they want to take. Some people want to become doctors, some people want to become advocates, some people want to take up finance, some people want to take up engineering. Different people like to take up different branches of knowledge. For those who study engineering, the most aspired for university to get into engineering is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, not Madras Institute of Technology. We have another MIT in Uttar Pradesh. When I was in Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir, we used to interview people for the project construction. So once one engineer had come and for the post of civil engineer. So I asked him, where did you study? He said, in MIT. I said, MIT? My goodness, what are you doing in India? So he was saying, I've been here only. So I couldn't connect. I was thinking, some guy studied in MIT. Why is he looking for engineering for a job in Mathura? Then I said, which branch, where, this, that, and all. I started asking. I realized that actually MIT stands for Meerut Institute of Technology. So like that, we have also Madras Institute of Technology. But Massachusetts, MIT is the real MIT, which everyone aspires. Every person who wants to do engineering, he wants to get there. If they are not able to get there, then there are other second options. So some people get into IIT. Those who are not able to get into IIT, they get into NITs. Those who are not able to get into NITs, they get into the local state-run engineering colleges, etc. So I was just looking at why people aspire so much to get into MIT. It's not at all easy. Very tough to get into MIT. Only the very best, most, the cream of the students, only they are able to get into MIT. So, why? Because MIT is the top ranked university in the whole world. I was just looking at the ranking of the universities. MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is number 1 in the world. And the number 2 comes University of Cambridge. And then number 3 comes Oxford University. Number 4 comes Harvard. And number 5 comes Stanford. So interestingly, all these universities, how they have become so number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to see that all these universities were established very long ago. MIT, relatively new, it was established somewhere in 1861 or something like that. And the University of Cambridge in the 13th century, 1200 AD, something like that. University of Oxford, that is 11th century or even prior to that. Harvard University, around 1856. Stanford University, 1891. So you can see all of them are very old universities. None of them are less than 100 years old, at least 150 years old. Actually, when these universities grow older, their reputation also grows. You look at the IITs in India, they are relatively much younger than all these universities. But with time, the value and the ranking of the IITs is also going on increasing. That's the nature of knowledge. Any branch of knowledge, if there is somebody who has been teaching it for a long period of time, then it acquires greater value. So, if you look at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or you go to Meerut Institute of Technology, or you come to Madras Institute of Technology, the basic principles of engineering which they are teaching will all be the same. The same G is 9.81 meters per second square, the same velocity of light, the same Lagrange's theorem, the same, all these, they are not going to change. It's not that if you go to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, they will teach you a different value of G. Or they will teach you, if you go to Meerut Institute of Technology, they will teach you Earth is flat. If you go to Massachusetts Institute, they will teach you Earth is round. It's not like that. It's all the same. So, then why do these older universities become so much aspired for and so much respect is given to them, so much credit is given to them? After all, everybody is teaching the same knowledge. It's not that one is different from the other, but still that university has got greater reputation in the market. So, one of the reasons, I'm not saying this is the only reason, there could be multiple other reasons. One of the reasons is the older a university is, the greater the respect for it, because they have been teaching the same thing over and over again. They are not changing and telling something new. If any university were to suddenly start teaching the earth is flat, what will happen? Nobody will go to that university because you have invented something new. You are giving your own interpretation, or somebody starts teaching that the earth is stationary and the sun revolves around the earth. If they start teaching these kind of things, what will happen? Nobody will go to that university. Arey Baba, you are inventing something on your own. So if the university says, no, so many centuries, people have been saying the same thing, earth is round, so we want to teach something new. So therefore we have started teaching earth is flat. You cannot say that. The older the knowledge, the more value it has. That's the nature. Of course, science also, what happens is, they keep discovering something and they say, okay, our old understanding was wrong. Now we have a correct understanding. Then they will change over. Then that becomes the standard knowledge. But the basic principle is, what is accepted as standard knowledge, that has to keep getting handed down from generation to generation. When a university does that repeatedly for centuries together, what will happen is people's value for that university grows. This is the nature of knowledge. If somebody keeps inventing newer and newer ways of teaching different branches of knowledge, that will not be valued very highly. People will all not respect such a teacher or a university. Actually, the same thing holds good even for spiritual life. In spiritual life, Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki. In spiritual life, we think that I can, when I look at Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, all these things, Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki. When we look at Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam and all these scriptures, we think, if somebody is giving a new interpretation to these scriptures, then it is very nice. Old interpretation, people are, anyway talking about it. Something new we want to hear. Some new sadhu comes, some new philosopher comes, he starts giving a new interpretation. Bhagavad Gita it is not really conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. It is actually the talk of a doctor to his patient. Or somebody says, actually 5 Pandavas means the 5 senses. And the Kurukshetra is your heart, where the constant fight between good and evil is going on. So you tell something like this, people will say, oh, new interpretation, very nice, let me read, let me hear. I remember we were once going for a book distribution in Bangalore. I was still very young in Krishna consciousness at that time. I did not know head or tail of philosophy. So I tagged along with another devotee who was more senior, and he was, he had been in Krishna consciousness for a little more amount of time. Neelamadhav Prabhu. So any of you have been in Bangalore, you will know him. He's still there. So we both were going along, and I was holding the books as an assistant to him, and we would go door to door. It was a book distribution marathon time. We went to one house and we knocked on the door, and one man came and opened the door. And Neelamadhav Prabhu, I was just standing below, and I was watching what is going on. Neelamadhav Prabhu had a copy of the Bhagavad Gita as it is with him. And he said, sir, this is Gita Jayanti month, we have come to distribute Gita and all that. This man immediately replied, no, I have read Bhagavad Gita, I have a copy of Bhagavad Gita in my home. So Neelamadhav Prabhu was very persistent. He was not easy to give up. If I were in his place, I would have said, okay, Hare Krishna, and walked out. He didn't give up. He said, do you have Bhagavad Gita as it is? He said, no, I have another copy of Bhagavad Gita. So immediately what Neelamadhav Prabhu did, he opened the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita has to be obtained in a parampara. And sakale neha mahata yoga. This is the oldest knowledge. Nothing new in this. So that same old knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is being given by Prabhupada, who comes in that Guru Shishya Parampara. He is 32nd in this line. And therefore, this is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. There is no change. It's the oldest way of understanding the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The way Arjuna understood 5,000 years ago the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, the same way you can also understand if you read this. The moment the man heard this is something new I am hearing. Sure, let me see. See, for him also, it is something new. He is not catching on that we are not talking anything new. We are talking about the oldest thing. But he is thinking, this is something new which I have not heard. So he became very interested. And then he paid the money for the Gita and he took. See the people's thinking. We are explaining, this is not the old, this is nothing new. We are explaining the old system. And people are thinking, oh, this is something new I have not heard before. So people's conditioning is such that they think the Bhagavad Gita, our Vedic scriptures means some new interpretation has to be there. Old interpretation and all, gone. It's like fashion. Today we have one kind of fashion. In the 80s we used to have bell-bottom pants. Then later it became tights. Then it became baggies. Now I don't know what is the latest fashion. Something is going on. So fashion keeps changing. So like that people think interpretation of the Vedic scriptures also should go on. But that's not what Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Sakale neha mahata yogaha. In course of time, that same old knowledge has been lost and that same knowledge I am giving it to you. And in fact, interestingly enough, if you look at this, today's verse, what Kapila Deva is telling Kardama Muni, Yesha Atmapato Avyakto Nashtaha Kalena Bhuyasa. Kalena Nashtaha. In course of time, this knowledge of Sankhya Yoga was lost. Bhuyasa. Again, I am repeating the same old knowledge to you. So even the Supreme Lord, Krishna himself and his incarnations, they do not give new interpretations to the Vedic knowledge. They simply repeat whatever existed in the past. In course of time, when people forget that, or that knowledge becomes corrupted, when people introduce new interpretations, that is when incarnations come and give the same old knowledge again. So we can see the same way, Prabhupada also. Prabhupada then explains in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita how he came to write the English translation and commentary of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's not that before Prabhupada gave his commentary and translation of the Bhagavad Gita, it is not that there were no other English editions of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada explains one lady whom he knew approached Prabhupada and asked him to recommend a suitable English version of the Bhagavad Gita. And then Prabhupada says, more than 700 editions of Bhagavad Gita were there in the market at that time. You can imagine today it must be much more. It must be, maybe we may have 7,000 editions, I don't know. But Prabhupada says, when he thought, now which edition shall I recommend to this lady, he realized that none of them are giving the original knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Every one of them is giving a new interpretation. So therefore, Prabhupada said, that became the catalyst for Prabhupada to decide to write the commentary and on the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore Prabhupada called this Bhagavad Gita as it is. No change. And one more interesting thing what we have to understand is, whenever, in what we are discussing about today, how Kapila Deva is talking to Kardama Muni about the oldest knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. He is, Kardama Muni has caused the descent of Kapila Deva so that, as Kapila Deva is saying, Tam pravartayitum deham imam viddhi maya bhrutam. Maya idam deham bhrutam. Maya imam deham bhrutam. Kapila Deva is telling Kardama Muni, I have taken this body, I have taken this birth, I have appeared like this, as Kapila Deva, tam kalena nashtaha avyaktaha atmapataha pravartayitum. That atmapatha, that knowledge of self-realization, which has been lost in course of time, pravartayitum, to again re-establish it, I have come as your son. This is what Kapila Deva is telling. So, Kardama Muni, by desiring for Vishnu to appear as his son, he meditated for 10,000 years upon Vishnu. Vishnu appeared before him, and then he got the benediction that he would appear as his son. And that is how Kapila Deva appeared as the son of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So Kardama Muni, we can understand, is a great devotee. Otherwise, why would Lord Vishnu appear before him? So, a great devotee of the Supreme Lord Vishnu caused the descent of the Lord as Kapila Deva in order to re-establish the old ancient knowledge. Now, the same parallel you can see in the life of Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna also caused Krishna to speak the Bhagavad Gita by taking the position of an ignorant person. But the common point between both of them is that both Kardama Muni and Arjuna, both of them are devotees. If you look at Kardama Muni, he is the son of Brahma. He was born out of the shadow of Brahma. And such a great personality, and he is a Brahmana. He is a Rishi living in a small hermitage, simple hermitage in the forest. And if you look at Arjuna, Arjuna is a Pandava. He is a Kshatriya king. He is the son of Kunti Devi, born from Indra. And he is a Kshatriya king. So there is no similarity between Kardama Muni and Arjuna as far as the material considerations are there. One is a king, another is a Rishi, living in the forest. One is a Kshatriya, one is a Brahmana. So there is no comparison between these two. But still, Krishna chose to speak the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and that same knowledge Kapila Dev chose to speak to Kardama Muni. So what was the common point between both of them? They were not Gyanis, they were not big yogis. So what was common between them? Both of them were Grihasthas. Kardama Muni was also a Grihastha, Arjuna was also a Grihastha. That is the common point. So did Krishna give the knowledge because they were Grihasthas? No. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that I have chosen to give you this knowledge because Priyosime Sakha Cheti, because you are very dear to me and you are my friend. Because Arjuna is a devotee of Krishna, therefore Krishna chose to give the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita to him. Similarly, Kapila Deva also chose to appear as the son of Kardama Muni to re-establish the ancient knowledge which was lost. So Kapila Deva could have been born in the family of some great Jnani or some great Ashtanga Yogi. He would have done all those things. But no, he chose to come as the son of Kardama Muni. Why? Because Kardama Muni is a great devotee. So the Lord appears to re-establish spiritual knowledge through the medium of a pure devotee like Arjuna or Kardama Muni. Therefore, the essence of all spiritual knowledge is not Jnana, it is not Ashtanga Yoga, it is not Karma Yoga. It has to be Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, the Lord should have been born as the son of a Karma Yogi, or he should have been born as the son of a Ashtanga Yogi, or as the son of a Jnana Yogi. No. Every instance where the Lord descends to re-establish spiritual knowledge, he comes as the son of a devotee. So therefore, the Lord from the very beginning of his descent, he demonstrates by his personal life that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga. Without Bhakti Yoga, no other process can give ultimate perfection. Jnana Yoga cannot give liberation without being mixed with Bhakti Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga cannot give perfection without being mixed with Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga cannot give perfection without being mixed with Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga by itself performed will give the ultimate perfection of going back to Godhead. So, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, not only is he speaking about Bhakti Yoga, by speaking it to a devotee like Arjuna and making it amply clear in the Bhagavad Gita, why he is speaking to Arjuna and not to anyone else. Because when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna 5000 years ago, it was not that there was a dearth of rishis and munis and jnanis and yogis. There are so many jnanis and yogis at that time also. It was not that there was nobody. People like Vasishtha Muni, all these people were there. But Krishna did not choose any of them. Krishna chose Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna is a pure devotee. And that is why Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Priyosi me sakha cheti. I am giving this knowledge to you because you are my devotee. So how, it cannot be clearer than this. But people, what they do is they misinterpret. They say, no, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is karma yoga. Somebody else will tell essence of bhakti yoga, essence of Bhagavad Gita is jnana yoga. So that's not the reality. You cannot twist the Bhagavad Gita and pull out impersonalistic Mayavadi philosophy out of it. If you look at the genesis of the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at the genesis of Sankhya Yoga given by Kapila Muni, it is all caused by a pure devotee. Therefore, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita or the Sankhya Yoga cannot be other than devotional service Bhakti Yoga. So, when we analyze deeply like this, we can understand these deeper truths about the spiritual knowledge given in the Vedic scriptures. And when the Vedas are nothing but they are the knowledge established by the Supreme Lord Himself. So, Mahato Bhutasya Etad Nishvasitam. The Vedas are actually emanating from the breathing of Mahavishnu. So, they have also come from the Supreme Lord only. Therefore, we cannot take shelter of the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra to try to establish that impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Even the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras have emanated from a person, which is the breathing of Mahavishnu. And whenever people lose the understanding of the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras and the Vedic scriptures, what happens? The Lord again and again descends. Yada yada dharmasya glanir. Whenever people forget the true meaning of the Vedic scriptures, what happens? The Lord descends. And every time He descends, how does He descend? He descends either as the son of a pure devotee, or He gives that knowledge to a pure devotee. So either way, we can see how Bhakti Yoga forms the basis on which the Supreme Lord propagates the spiritual knowledge. So therefore, the knowledge which is being given by Kapila Deva also, which is known as Sankhya Yoga, is not an impersonalist understanding of the Vedic scriptures. The ultimate conclusion of that Sankhya Yoga also is the performance of Bhakti Yoga only. And that is why Kapila Deva has chosen to descend as the son of a great devotee, Kardama Muni. And not only that, Kardama Muni enunciated the Sankhya Yoga philosophy to whom? To Devahuti, who is another great devotee of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Sankhya Yoga is nothing but Bhakti Yoga, and we cannot conclude in any other way. So, we should not become misled by people who bring out newer and newer interpretations on the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic scriptures, Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, etc. Rather, we must always refer to the oldest understandings of the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic scriptures. If we look at the personalities like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami, all these personalities. So, Nimbarka Swami appeared almost 2000 years, more than 2000 years ago. Ramanujacharya about almost 1000 years ago. Madhvacharya about 800 years ago. All of them speak the same language of bhakti to the Supreme Lord, that the absolute truth is a person, and the ultimate culmination, the perfection of human form of life is to render Bhakti Yoga. All of them have said the same thing. So, Srila Prabhupada also is giving that same knowledge. The only difference is, all these acharyas, what they have spoken in Sanskrit, Prabhupada is giving it in English. Why? Because we have forgotten Sanskrit. It is not possible for us to read all these Sanskrit commentaries on the Vedic scriptures. So therefore, Prabhupada is given the same conclusions, the same essence of the Vedic scriptures in English language. So we have to take the knowledge of the Vedic scriptures in their original form and understand them. that is what gives real value to the spiritual knowledge. This principle applies even for material knowledge. We cannot interpret in whatever way we want and bring out new conclusions, and that may make us very popular. But for real seekers of the truth, such new interpretations have very little value. Therefore, we have to understand the Vedic scriptures in their true original form as it is being explained by Srila Prabhupada and as it is being demonstrated by the practical personal life of great personalities like Kapila Deva and Arjuna and Krishna and Kardama Muni, and by this we can be established in the true original Vedic knowledge. So I will stop here. If anybody has any question or comment, yes please. Yes. Yeah.
But traditionally, if you see even in Islam world also, the Sankhya philosophy means the analytical study of the material nature at a particular level. Normally, when I get a Krishna concept, I understand that it is only a study of the material nature.
Yeah.
Not considered Bhakti Yoga. Definitely, after reading about it, why is the Sankhya philosophy means only study of the material nature, only not the Bhakti Yoga?
Well, what we have to understand is, even in the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are like the 2 covers of the book. And the middle 6 chapters is the real essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, the 7th chapter, which is the first chapter of the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, how does Krishna start it? Krishna begins by saying, I'm going to give you that knowledge, knowing which there is nothing else left to be known. Isn't it? What is that verse? Does anyone remember? First verse of the 7th chapter? Here it is. Yogam yunjan madashraya asamsayam samagram mam yathajnasasi tatshunu. Okay. How you can know me in full, free from doubt. Alright. Jnanam teham savijnanamidam vakshyam asheshataha yajnatva neha bhuyo anyajnatam avashishyate. By knowing this, there shall remain nothing further to be known. Isn't it? So, Krishna is setting the stage, something really, the topmost knowledge, after knowing which nothing else is left there to be known. And Krishna further, he is building up the suspense. Manushyanam sahasreshu kasidyatate siddhaye. That, very rarely few people get this knowledge. So what is that knowledge? That very rarely, out of many sahasreshu, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows the truth. So Krishna has built it up so much, right? So something real, confidential, Krishna is going to talk. What is that Krishna is going to talk? Krishna now starts. Bhumirapo analo vayuhu khan mano buddhirevacha. Krishna is saying earth, water, fire, air, space, these are my differentiated energy. Krishna said, topmost thing is going to speak, after knowing which nothing else left to be known. And Krishna is saying earth, water, fire, air. This so every day we are seeing in front of our eyes. What is so confidential in this? So, what we have to understand is, knowing Krishna means knowing him in full. And knowing Krishna in full, which is what Krishna told in the beginning of the 7th chapter. How you yatha jnasasi samagram. How you know him in full. So knowing Krishna in full means you have to know all his energies first. So first you have to know his inferior energy, then you have to know about the marginal energy, then you have to know about the superior energy, then you can understand the energetic Krishna. You understand? So the first step in Bhakti Yoga is to understand the material energy of Krishna, how it is acting. Then only we can differentiate, this is the inferior energy of Krishna. And the living entity, marginal energy, is superior to that material energy. So I have to develop vairagya, I have to develop virakti, I have to get detachment from this material world. And then there is the supreme energy, the spiritual energy of Krishna. So all these things only when we understand, we can understand the glories of Krishna. When we understand the glorious position of Krishna, our faith in Krishna becomes steady. And what is that faith? Adau Shraddha, Tataha Sadhu Sangha. Shraddha is the beginning of bhakti. And that Shraddha, that bhakti of Krishna has to be founded firmly on knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of all kinds of energies of Krishna. Otherwise, the faith in Krishna will be very shaky. Then bhakti cannot take place. Bhakti can take place, bhakti, devotional service to Krishna can start only when the faith in Krishna is very firm. And that firm faith comes by knowledge. Knowledge of Krishna's vibhutis, Krishna's opulences and his energies. So therefore, Sankhya Yoga begins by analyzing the material energy. What this inferior energy of Krishna actually constitutes. That's the same thing Krishna is also starting 7th chapter. The middle 6 chapters are all about Bhakti Yoga. In the 6th chapter, Krishna largely dealt with Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Right? Although he ended it with Bhakti Yoga. If you look at the chapters previous to that, Krishna was talking all about Karma Yoga. 2nd chapter, Krishna was talking about Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, so many things. So, Bhakti Yoga, here and there, 1 or 2 verses Krishna mentioned in the first 6 chapters. Middle 6 chapters is only Bhakti Yoga. And the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is talking about Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu. Krishna is also analyzing what is this material energy of his, this inferior energy of his. Then, as we go forward, Krishna will further analyze the Jiva Bhuta, the Paramatma. Then Krishna will talk about himself. So Krishna will talk about Brahman also. So Krishna first talks about the inferior energy, then about the living entity, which is the marginal energy. Then Krishna starts talking about Brahman, then about Paramatma, then Krishna finally talks about himself. So this is how Bhakti Yoga develops. So therefore, in Sankhya Yoga what happens is Sankhya Yoga also, the same what Krishna is doing, same thing is followed. What is that? Begin with understanding the inferior energy of Krishna. Once we have understood the inferior energy of Krishna, we analyze what are the different elements. The 24 elements we analyze and then we see, am I any of these elements? No, I am none of these elements. So what does that mean? That means I am separate from this. Then comes the next question, then what am I? If I am not one of these 24 elements, then what am I? So, like this, the knowledge develops. Step by step, we have to take the living entity forward in revealing the transcendental knowledge. So therefore, Sankhya Yoga begins with understanding the 24 elements and differentiating ourselves from these 24 elements to understand that we are not this Jada Prakriti, we are not this material energy of Krishna, we are a different energy. So that is the process to develop Vairagya. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes, Mataji. Actually, the real Sankhya philosophy is what is given by Kapila Deva, who is the son of Devahuti. In the outside world, there is another bogus Kapila Deva who has propagated impersonal knowledge as Sankhya philosophy. So, impersonalists say the Sankhya philosophy of that Kapila is the real Sankhya philosophy. So, but Prabhupada clearly explains in the Bhagavatam that Kapila Deva appeared as the son of Devahuti and he propagated Sankhya philosophy very long ago. It was in a different yuga, in Satya Yuga or something like that. Whereas this Kapila Deva, this bogus Kapila Deva who propagated impersonal knowledge, saying that it is Sankhya philosophy, appeared recently, few hundred years back. So therefore, Prabhupada says that is not the real Sankhya philosophy, because impersonalists, whenever they refer to Sankhya philosophy, they talk about that Sankhya philosophy. And they say Sankhya philosophy means impersonal knowledge, which is not reality. Because Kapila Deva originally spoke Sankhya philosophy, and as we go along in this third canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, when we come to the chapter of Kapila Deva instructing his mother Devahuti, we will see how he analyzes the whole material world, material energy of Krishna, and then finally comes to the point of devotional service. So, if the analysis of the material energy is done with the intention of coming to the point of Bhakti Yoga, then it is real Sankhya philosophy as propounded by the Devahuti Kapila. Whereas, the Sankhya philosophy propounded by the bogus Kapila is Mayavada philosophy, it is not real Sankhya philosophy. That is why Prabhupada repeatedly refers to that. Is that okay? What it does is it talks about in a similar way, analyzing the material energy, coming to the conclusion that we are impersonal. So that's not the real Sankhya philosophy. So just like nowadays you have so many interpretations on the Bhagavad Gita, and they will say Bhagavad Gita means Bhagavad Gita, essence of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga. So if you look at all the acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Srila Prabhupada himself, Nimbarka Swami, all these personalities, they said Bhakti Yoga is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So some person came along and made it something else. So then what happens is people start thinking, oh, this is the real Bhagavad Gita. Like that, this Kapila Deva came and gave his own interpretation of Sankhya Yoga, which today people are accepting that is the real Sankhya philosophy. Is that okay? We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.